Hey everyone, welcome back to the Spiritual Underground podcast. If you're just bumping across this podcast, first off, I am your host Dan Reeves. This is season 8 of this podcast, which kind of blows me away that time is a weird thing. And Grandma told me it would change as I got older. I didn't believe her until I actually did. How fast it goes. But if you're just now coming upon this podcast, a lot of the library is a lot of 12-step recovery stuff, interviews with people's recovery journeys. But interspersed there some other things like some podcasts from men's retreat I've held and some of the other trips that we went on where I've decided to take some recording stuff and talk about it or do an after action report. And lately, a lot of people have been knocking on the door, bringing, shining their light. I call them forces for the good that come and ask and make a request, submit an email request to be on the podcast, and it takes me about 3 seconds to know usually if somebody's a fit or not just by reading what's on there. 98% of the time, it is people that fit right up my alley. Get a little touchy when it comes to stuff like people promoting substances and stuff, which I don't know where I'm landing on that. I had a guy talk about kava here a couple weeks ago, and I don't know. Anyway, my guest today is bringing his brand of light to the show, another force for good. It's Deepak Chari. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
And yeah, we had a little telephone conversation the other day and ready to see what's going on. He said he's got some really good stories, and I'm really interested in seeing, because see, I get to be the front row recipient of all this information first, too, and I feel like that's almost a privilege to be sitting here doing that with you today.
Wonderful. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me on your show, Dan.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. So most people, I always like to like. I wasn't born the man. I mean, I probably was at some level, but there was a time where I was really felt that I wandered in darkness, and over time something happened, and I come to this. And sometimes that darkness isn't necessarily that, but usually something brought us to this point where you're sharing this light that you found with other people.
That's
I always like to kind of start out with that story about what brought you here. How'd you
that's a
get to be
great
doing
question.
what you're doing?
That's a great question. So yeah, just to give a little background, my name is Deepak Chari, as Dan said. I'm an engineer and certified advanced voice biofeedback specialist, which is a new frontier. People may have heard the word biofeedback. This is the next generation. If you want to say Star Trek generation, that's fine, but it is definitely the next generation of it, and it's focused on the voice because I have
Mhm.
found in my research, but also in my training, that the voice is the most accurate reflection of your subconscious mind. If all you all are wondering, like, what the heck is the subconscious mind? Well, I have found that we have two minds. We have a subconscious mind and a conscious mind. Majority of our mind is the subconscious mind. I would say 95 to 99% of it. The remaining 1% is our conscious mind. You know, the one that does the grocery list, the to-do list, your goals, your dreams. Oh, we might have forgotten some things on our grocery list. So that happens too. Well, thank God our subconscious doesn't forget things because it runs all our organs, our heart rate, our everything. Oh, I forgot to run the heart rate. I'll do better next time. Well, there's no next time, right? But our subconscious takes care of all that. But it also keeps every thought, memory, sight, feeling, sound, and emotion in every fraction of a second since the day we were born. And it doesn't matter if we conscious mind remembers it or not. Our subconscious remembers every little thing. And if there's things from our childhood that we didn't clear or release, or we're like, oh, it's okay, I'll tough it out, I'll get over it. Well, guess what? This is what I found in the science. That energetic charge in that moment, maybe when we're 5 years old or really young, just moves forward. It projects forward. And when those energies project forward, they draw similar situations similar to that unresolved emotional pattern. Like energies draw like energies. Well, then that has more charge than it did before. Think of a snowball rolling down a hill, right? A teeny little snowball, no big deal. Well, by the time it rolls to the bottom, it's more like an avalanche, right? Well, where did that come from? It has a lot of speed and momentum too. It started with this teeny little thing, this teeny little snowball. Same thing with our emotions. So if we don't release what happened in the past, it just projects forward, draws like a magnet, other stuff similar to it, and then keeps building. That's where sudden things happen in our life, right? Haven't we all had these things? Deepak, it just came out of nowhere. I didn't plan for it. This emotional upset that happened. I don't know why I reacted this way. I don't know why this situation happened in my life. Well, As they say, there's no accidents. Things happen for a reason, and it's all based on energy. So that's a little intro. But this work I'm doing, you were introducing me, Dan, called Advanced Voice Biofeedback, came from my own challenging emotional journey. And you see, it all started when I was a kid growing up. I was bullied as a kid, or at least I perceived I was. And I was kind of hiding away from all these kids. I was kind of a loner, a bookworm kind of a guy. So my choice, my hiding place of choice was the library. I'd hide out there in different aisles. I'd like, okay, I gotta move to this aisle. It's a little safer here. And when I found a safe aisle, I would camp out there for a little bit. And since I was camping out there for a little bit, I said, well, I may as well occupy my time. So I would grab seemingly random books from the shelf, which happened to, I found out later, be on the law of attraction, building self-esteem, self-confidence, how to win friends, influence people, Dale Carnegie. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, As a Man Thinketh, books by Dr. Joseph Murphy on the law of attraction, and many others. What I didn't realize, Dan, is I was programming my subconscious to think in a positive way to face my challenging world that I was scared to face. So it helped build my confidence. Now, this bullying pattern I perceived carried on from the time I was in elementary school to junior high to even high school. And the way it shifted in how it was from, you being pushed around to being not included. Deepak, you don't fit in our group. In fact, you don't fit in any group. So I was like, oh, so I'm a loner. I have nobody. So once I would graduate from high school, I said, thank God, I'm done with this. All these immature kids, this kind of treatment, this is over. It's done. But I found out that was not true. That was just the beginning. I kept drawing in college, classmates, friends, who are narcissistic, mean, controlling, manipulative, condescending, gaslighting, and you can add more in there of every negative trait you can think of. Cruel, here's another word. These are my friends. These are my classmates. These are my professors, bosses, supervisors, and yes, even relationships with the opposite sex. All of them were like this. And I go, wow, this is not ending. It keeps going on. Like, I thought this was supposed to end. I guess this is how my life is. Guess I better accept these people as friends, or because otherwise I have no friends, right? It's better to have terrible, narcissistic, controlling, mean, manipulative friends than no friends. That was my thinking at the time, of course. So let me backtrack again, because this pieces of the story will make sense in just a bit here. Going back to my childhood also, I used to give my dad his medications for high blood pressure and anxiety and other organ issues. And the doctor said, these will help him. So I gave it to him every morning with his coffee. But then suddenly, at the age of 51, he died of a massive heart attack. My mom was an instant widow, and she had two teenage kids, myself and my sister, my younger sister. So my sister looked, and when this suddenly happened, like, we gave him all the right stuff. Then we looked at each other. How did this happen? Why did this happen? But then we looked at each other and said, I wonder in the future, could we prevent this horrible thing from happening to anyone else in the future? We can't let this happen. So that led to something. Fast forward. My sister had a passion. This is horrible what happened. I'm going to study medicine. But I'm going to study medicine so I can practice natural medicine, which means it's called functional medicine, where you find a natural solution, which is not pharmaceutical, to whatever's going on medically, because it didn't work for my dad, obviously. So she pursued that with a vengeance. No one was doing that in the time. So fast forward, I was practicing as an engineer because my father was an engineer. That's the only reason I did it. And so my sister became a medical doctor, and then myself and her decided to form a partnership and formed the Chari, my last name, Center of Health, which is an integrated functional medical center that goes to the root causes versus the symptoms using natural solutions. That was our philosophy because of what happened to our dad. So this connects to the story here, because my sister kept working on all these different people, reversing their conditions, including high blood pressure and liver issues like my father had, but turning them around. And they were so happy, and then their families' lives were happy. So whoever she made happy with that, they were making their other people happy. So I was working as an engineer, right? Improving productivity, efficiency, quality control, and all these different companies, which was good for the CEOs. There's nothing wrong with that, but somehow that didn't drive me as much. I saw how the satisfaction of those people, when their lives were saved or turned around, they were around now, which I didn't have myself. I said, you know what? I want to switch to that. That sounds more of what I like to do. I told my sister, we formed a partnership in this business. I would like to also heal people. She goes, that's fine, Deepak, but you don't have a medical background. How are you going to treat people? I said, oh, I know, you're right. Then I suddenly thought, Dan, when I was stuck in the library hiding from those bullies, I was reading books on the law of attraction. Maybe this would work or something. Maybe I'll try it. So I said, now this is corny, but this is what I did. Universe, can you help me somehow work at the center that I created with my sister so I can heal people too with my engineering background since I don't have a medical degree? Yeah, I said it like that. And now a couple weeks later, this is what's interesting. I detached from it. I didn't realize that's called detaching. I mean, forgot about that. I said it. 2 weeks later, right? I didn't know what that word was. 2 weeks later, some friends came up to me and said, Deepak, this guy's going to be speaking in Santa Monica, California. We lived in San Diego at the time, about how your voice reflects all of your emotions, including your limiting beliefs, negative thoughts, negative emotions, limiting self-sabotage patterns, guilt, shame, regret, whatever it is. But most importantly, how you could create computerized emotional heat and voice maps from that and find out the frequencies to send to them, to these people remotely, to release those limiting patterns, regardless of how long they've had them. So I go,
Mm.
that sounds really cool. So as I attended this presentation, suddenly this light bulb went on in my head. Wait a minute, this is technical. I have a technical background. Maybe this is something I could do at our center, and help heal people like she was. So I went up to him afterwards. I said, I would like to apprentice with you. He goes, okay, you will be my last one of my last ones. I'm only doing a handful and I'm pretty full, and that's it. And I happened to be there in the right time. You see, he had his own health conditions, which he didn't tell me at the time. So he stopped doing that, and I was in the right place at the right time without knowing. So I got trained by him in the trenches, working on people with depression, anxiety, fears, phobias, emotional trauma, whatever it is, grief. And he goes, I think you got it. I said, cool. Then I thought, wait a minute, I did this engineering degree. I wonder if I could do something with this. Maybe I can streamline some of the steps he taught me, maybe shorten some things, maybe improve a little things. So I found some ways to do that, streamline the time, get faster results. So I said, I'm going to call it a different name since it's a different version of the software he created. I'm going to call it my Life Transformation Technology Program. It's my own version of it. So my sister said, okay, it looks like you can work at our center now. I said, cool. But she said, you were bullied a lot. Maybe you should work on your stuff too. I said, you know what? You're right. I don't know if you can clear it, but may as well, right? So I said, okay, let me try that. So I did the same technique I did on so many others on myself. I said, is this a program? I don't know if your viewers and listeners remember the movie The Matrix. Remember Morpheus and Neo? Remember, he was like, he didn't have any belief in himself or anything at all. And then suddenly he was programmed. He became like a superhero. So I said, I wonder if that's a program in me, this bullying pattern. So I worked on myself, created the voice maps, released the pattern. And there's a feeling of relief you have when you release that pattern. And it shows on the voice map or the release as well. So I said, that all happened. I go, okay, release. Let's see what happens. Couple weeks later, those people who are mean, narcissistic, cruel, all those things I said before around me, those are my friends and relationships. They said, Deepak, you don't fit with us anymore. We don't want to be around you. They started leaving, all of them at the same time. I got fired from those horrible bosses. The relationships left me abruptly. The friends, everybody left me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm alone. I thought this was supposed to work. But guess what? Soon after that, just like a week later, wonderful, nurturing, compassionate, caring, positive, motivating people came into my life. And guess what, Dan? I had no concept of what that even was because I never experienced that my whole life. And the reason I shared this with all of you viewers and listeners is even if you've had traumatic things in your life, you drew horrible situations, horrible people in your life over and over again, you thought, I guess this is how my life is. And you don't even know what a loving relationship is. Maybe your parents didn't know either, so they couldn't show you love. You can have that. I had it. I had no concept what that was, and I got it. So you can have that too. I just want to share that. So I said, okay, these are wonderful people. I can't even imagine what these are like. Now, this is what friends and relationships are. So I started doing this on one person after another at our center till hundreds and hundreds of people went through. And then I even worked on people all over the world too, starting with my own emotional challenge.
Mm. And that evidence piled up, and that's the other thing you think. I don't know, is this really just hooey balooey, woo and whatnot, and
Yeah.
And the same thing kind of helping with like I believe like this 12-step program has got some magic wrapped in it that we don't really understand. But it's a process that ends up, the fruit is, you can see the fruits of it, and it's obvious. So like when you're doing this work with these other people and you're seeing them getting better, then that just like there's a charge that you get. Okay, who's next? Next, next. And that whole thing, I mean, there is, and I have engineering background. I don't have an engineering degree, but I've spent most of my life doing that. And I
Yeah.
also have a mechanical aptitude. And I grew up with a father who could fix anything. And for whatever reason, I would tag along with him without even question. That's another thing I remember. I think about that. I was like, I never fought that. And I would think, like, there's a piece of me would think that I'd be going down. I don't want to go. I don't want to do, I don't, but I always was a willing participant most of the time. Obviously, there was probably exceptions to that when the boys wanted to play. When I was picking, okay, everybody wants to go play basketball, but dad wants me to go help him work. Which one do I do? But anyway, I got that mechanical aptitude stuff. And there's a lot of, I gained by making that machine run smoother or that process better and that kind of stuff. And I still do that to this day. I'm still in the field and I work part time as an engineer at a company here local. But that's a
Nice.
different thing. But I can see the like almost like a grooming almost the universe was doing with me to help me like work on these inanimate things where what the danger and the risk and stuff were kind of, low and, so what, you could just back up and do it again to like prep them to where I actually had these tools that could help other people. And when I started having that, making that machine work right was cool. But when you can actually help another fellow human being progress in their journey and drop off stuff that's holding them back. Like I love we when I talk to people like you, I see this parallel thing over and over again where your tools are different, but they're addressing the same similar issues, and the outcome is a similar outcome, but the tools in between here and there are different than the tools that I was trained with, right? And I did
Exactly.
the same thing with the 12 steps. I went, hey, this is cool, but wonder if I was around this particular program that taught me some stuff, and one of them, I got pulled into yoga. What if I incorporated some of the yogic stuff into my personal 12-step delivery and mechanism and started making it, frankly, and you can kind of get some stuff from purists in the 12-step community because you're messing with it, and you're not supposed to mess with the program, this we do this and we do that, but that's not the way the world works. We're put here to make things to improve and to add to. It's another thing, a quote, add to. Add to my life the things which makes my life in recovery fruitful. Add to, and some of it is, this process is setting aside, removing. I like another line that says, I'm not really becoming somebody new. I'm not becoming the man that some version of a man I didn't used to be. Ultimately, what I'm doing is sloughing off who I am not, because who I am is under here. It got piled up, it got smudged over with bullying and feelings of not fitting in and various other these narcissistic people and other kinds of things, that kind of infect you. It slimes you, like you mentioned the Matrix movie. Let's go back to Ghostbusters. I think about it like getting slimed sometimes,
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I
That's
can't
true.
like it, I think, and I do the same thing. Maybe this is just what I'm stuck with, this is just life for me, Yeah, I thought when I got done with high school that all this crap would be behind me. But nope, here it is here, and I guess I just have to accept it. And I hear your story. It's a parallel thing, just on a different track of going, you know what? No, this doesn't have to continue to be this way. Let me do some time after time after time, that request to the universe, whether you call it prayer, what you call it, is all, I mean, almost inevitably, it's always some version of that is a piece of people's like turning point. They stop, it's a surrender. Help me. I don't know what to do. I'm waving my white flag and I'm setting down my rifle that I've been using all my life to battle all this. I'm gonna set it down and open myself and tell me what to do. And time after time after time, that answer seems to get, that those answers come.
Absolutely, absolutely. So like you said with the 12 step and all, and like there might be dogmatic things. No, you're not supposed to mess with it, right? But then you're like, well, if there's a better way, maybe there is. I think in 1899, apparently the patent offices said everything that needs to be invented has already been invented. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there's always innovative things of doing everything, and you're finding them with the 12 steps. So that's cool. It's the same thing I did too. I said, well, I just wonder, hey, I may as well do something with this engineering degree, and I was able to find something. And an interesting thing about it too. Oops, sorry about that. The interesting thing about it is that um, oh, I would be able to do it, and I was able to do it, and it felt really kind of wow. I thought, this is it. I can't make any changes to this, but there was a way to do it. But 70% of it is intuitive, and 30% is actual technical. That's the interesting thing about this. Um, and engineers are, don't talk about intuition. I work with engineers, and I'll say, okay, you had three choices, but you chose that. Why'd you chose that? Well, based on the data. I was like, well, the data was pretty much the same for all three for the most part. So, but something leaned you on this one. Oh, I know what it was. It was intuitive, wasn't it? No, no, no. It was the analysis of the data. And I'm like, oh, okay, you don't want to admit it. All right. So, they don't want to talk about it, but clearly it was an intuitive decision. Even I know because looking at the numbers, I could just tell. But I'm a very right brain kind of engineer. I'm not the typical left brain kind. So that was kind of good in this case. But one thing interesting, Dan, that I wanted to share with your viewers and listeners is doing this process, I discovered there's 4 phases that we all go through. Because see, the next question I asked is, okay, I was able to clear the bullying pattern, right? But where the heck did this bullying pattern even come from? Like, I didn't want that, right? Where did it come from? Would you be interested for me to share what I discovered?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I found, and this is based on a lot of years of data, not I mean, from my research and everything, that there's 4 phases we go through. The first phase is when your parents decide to procreate you.
Mm.
Okay. Now, I'm being very direct here, shall we say. But in the moment they do, whatever unresolved emotions your parents, your mom and dad had in that moment, a certain percentage of that gets downloaded to your energy field of this new child being created. And I can
Mm.
actually measure that with this technology that I do, believe it or not. So, in other words, if the father felt like, you know what, I'm not financially where I am or administratively where I am, this other guy took my position. That wasn't fair, or I got gypped off, or I had a tough childhood. I never got over it. And I'm not so happy with the woman I'm in at present, but I hope, I don't know, not sure if this is going to work out. Certain percent of that unresolved emotion gets downloaded to the kid. The kid has nothing in its energy field. It's a clean slate. But a certain percentage will get downloaded to the kid. Same with the mom. What if she says, well, dad doesn't, I'm not sure how he's going to be as a father, but maybe if I have a child with him, maybe this will suddenly work out. Maybe with this child we have now, I actually want to do other things, but I'm not so satisfied. So that gets downloaded. That's phase one. But guess what? I also found that the unresolved emotions of the grandparents on both sides, that is the moms and the dad side, mom's mom, mom's dad, dad's dad, dad's mom, certain percentage of their unresolved emotions get downloaded to the child, whether the child knew them or not. Now, this is interesting, okay? A lot of times the grandparents die before the kid is born. But how many times, Dan, have you seen a grandkid? And I have many times that they walk and act and talk like Grandpa Joe. They kind of tilt their head sideways. They have a bit of a drawl. The other kids don't have that, the other grandkids. And they even have the personality and sort of think like Grandpa Joe. And they have the personality and swagger of Grandpa Joe. The parents comment on that. The Grandpa Joe died way before this grandkid was born. But why is he acting like that? Oh, it's
Yeah.
not just some accident. It's a download. We know about our hair color, our eye color, our height, or weight, right? That came from grandpa. Oh, I got this on the other side of the family. No one talks about the emotional imprints. Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about that. These imprints from the past. Also, emotionally, how they thought, what they felt about life. Was it a safe world? Was it a scary world? You have to keep looking behind your back.
Yeah.
Did they have addictions, alcoholism? Did they have anger management issues? Were they depressed? Were they coming from a fearful place growing up? Their father would beat them. The grandparents, certain percentage of that gets downloaded to the next generation. Two siblings will get different percentages of the unresolved issues of the parents and grandparents, by the way. That's why it affects the kids differently. That's another thing I discovered. So that's phase one, okay? Now you go to phase two. What's phase two? Phase two is you're in your mom's womb for 9 months, picking up whatever feelings, thoughts, or emotions that you're getting from your mom. Whatever feelings, thoughts, emotions she has. What if she's not happy in her life? What if she wasn't ready to have the kid? What do you think the message to the kid is, Dan?
Yeah.
I didn't want to have this kid. I wasn't wanted. I should have never been born. The kid picks up that message, even if the parent never told the kid that, by the way. What if the mom said, God, I wanted to jet set around the world. I wasn't ready for this. I'm not so happy in the relationship with this man either. And maybe they're even fighting. Maybe they want a divorce and the kid's in the womb. You think the kid doesn't pick that up? No, they pick up everything. They can hear everything. I can hear you guys fighting, by the way, the kid says in the womb. That's phase two. Then you go to phase three. What's phase three? Phase three is you're born into the world. But now you have the direct interface of those parents and or grandparents, uncles, aunts, people older than us, teachers, telling us things. But you see what I found? Here's another distinction. From age 0 to 7, and this has a lot of data behind it, you're in an alpha theta state, which means you're like a sponge. You absorb everything that's said to you. You don't question it. It's like a deep meditative state. You can create a Mozart, but you can also create a traumatized kid if you tell the kids the wrong things. You're no good. You're not worth anything. Oh, I guess you didn't get the talent from the family, huh? You didn't get that, huh? God, why couldn't you be kid? Look at that kid across the street. Look how smart and talented he is. Look how good in school he is. Look how successful in athletics he is. Couldn't you be even a little bit like that? I guess you didn't get that, huh?
Mm.
One parent actually told a kid, these are actual case studies, I don't think you're going to amount to much more than a ditch digger your whole life. Yeah, you don't have
Mm.
what it takes. Yeah, this is real. So this imprints a kid's belief about themselves. And then from 8 to 12 is more of the same, where you kind of question a little bit, but you say, no, it's true. I'm not worth anything. I'll never amount to anything. 0 to 12. Okay. So now you have a blueprint of how you see the world. You see from 0 to 12, and that projects into the future. It doesn't matter how many degrees you get, how many college, whatever, you still have that belief system that projects forward and drawing the same situation to your life. Now that's phase three, but there's a phase four I said too. What's phase four? Phase four is when you take phase one, two, and three, which I just discussed with you and your viewers and listeners, into your own life. So guess what? You repeat what your parents and grandparents did in your own life, unbeknownst to you, and then into your kids' lives, and then your kids do the same thing. And this repeats over and over again, I found. So this program I created out of my own challenging emotional journey I discussed is like a rocket ship that instead of repeating it over and over again, it blasts you like a rocket ship out of that repeating pattern into a whole new territory where you're creating new experiences, not repeating the ones of the past, totally new without wisdom of the past, but none of that emotional baggage. And you're creating a new life for yourself and then your kids in the future, so, which I call my life transformation technology program. So that's kind of how that explains those four phases.
Yeah, I always say so many parallels again, that because I will say like this stuff, we're going to change the trajectory. My trajectory was one direction, and it was and I felt powerless to it. And I had to have some kind of catalyst to make that change. It wasn't just happening by accident. I had to have somebody come into my life, had to have some circumstances that kind of broke me. And, the old, the break is where the light gets in, the wounds where that kind of thing, and then that was able to change it completely changed the trajectory of my life. We have a couple other analogies we use, like and it follows right. I think it's parallel to yours, except for I do really that intrigues me about this thing about what we pick up, and you were saying things like words like mom and dad or whatever, saying you're probably not going to amount to anything, but that kind of message can also come without any words being said too, right?
True. Very, very,
And you
very
can
excellent
pick,
point.
just like you were saying about being perceived to be bullied and wonder, because I do that too. There's a line in the big book that said these things that's happened in our past, fancied or real, because some of them I blew up into something that I'm not so sure that really is what happened, but I picked that story and would tell you about it as I went forward, and I'm look back and I go, that really wasn't what I've been telling people it was. It was something, but I inflated some of these things too as like a protective shield or or whatever. But we talk about like it's like a computer hard drive. Everything that comes through this computer is leaving an imprint. And I might burn it and I might throw it in the lake and I might reset my computer and reboot and all that. But the right people can go in there and find that evidence of these files being in there over time. It never goes away completely. But you can like kind of arrest them. You can like take them out of action. And that's the same way I think as our life works. That little seed is there. I'm not going to get rid of it, but I do something to like neutralize it in my walk so that it's not having that impact and causing me to repeat that pattern, like you had said. We have another one where it's like go through life with I got a big garbage can, it's got backpack straps on it. And I carry it and wear it everywhere I go, and everything that happens to me, every one of my life experiences goes in that
Ah,
backpack.
interesting,
And
interesting.
in there is a bunch of really good stuff because good stuff happens too, right? But there's also a lot of bad stuff or not so good or less than ideal. I'm careful about the labels because who do we really know if that was good or not, right? That's a funny label to be putting on these things. But at some point I worked with a man and we got that backpack off and we shook it out and we separated the good stuff from the not so good stuff and we polished it all up and cleaned it up. We put the not so good stuff where it belonged in the past and then all the good stuff we cleaned up and polished and put back in the backpack. And here's one of the analogy I like is like when I hit
Ah,
that point, my
good.
backpack was full. I didn't have any margin. I didn't have any capacity for something to happen. So when something would happen to me, it'd be a crisis, right? Immediately. It would not be worth its weight that I was giving it, but I didn't have any capacity to store anything more. I was filled up. And so this process allowed me to dump that out, kind of reset my whole emotional state and begin on a new trajectory. And it sounds like this voice, because when you talk about the voice thing, then you know what Dan's doing, right? What's he picking up out of your voice? What's he?
Well, yeah, I mean, what I've done, after doing this for 20 years, I mean, I can hear things. People ask me, can you hear things in people's voice? I use computer voice analysis and software to do the detection. But when you do something over and over again for 20 years, I started picking it up even before the computer did, right before the computer, and I go, I bet it's this, and then yeah, well, there it is. Um, but what I've learned to do, like when I'm in a public, let's say we go to a club or some, whatever, I kind of just turn the volume down on that, because you can't really turn it off. So I kind of turn it down so I don't get into all that. But if I do need to turn on, I can. But that's what I do in those public situations. But yeah, but
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so you would almost, kind of have to do that. I know that, you can kind of drive yourself a little bit crazy if you don't have some way to moderate things like that. That's what when I move around in the world, I'm bent towards the substance abuse kind of stuff. So like I will tend to go, well, that's their problem. I can see it in, I'm living in some spot that's really not working for me. And plus the people that I'm interacting with don't want that crap thrown on them out of me either, so I just have to kind of dampen that tendency to want to apply these other tools out when I'm just out being in the world. Not
is that kind of following in the thought of like just like me, I want to help everyone. But
yeah,
one of the things I learned in this work is not everyone's ready to be helped, which is an interesting thing. Like, don't you want to, like you said with addiction? I mean, I know this is affecting your life. Don't you want to clear it? And they may not be ready. And you have the tools and you can help them for sure. But when the student is ready, the teach master will appear, right? But
yep,
so that's what I also learned doing this work too. Because sometimes I'll get a wife who'll bring in a husband and say, "You got to help this guy. He's really messed up." Yeah, I mean, they actually use these words. I mean, I'm not even making this up. I wish I could. And I'll say to the guys, I'll say, "Okay, I know you're having some relationship issues, but sir, I know you're here in front of me, but are you are you ready to work on this? I mean, I can clear anything. It's not a problem, but are you ready?" And he's like, "Well, I don't think the problem's me, it's her, you see." I'm like, okay, so, but I know you're both in a relationship, but you both have the equal areas because I can hear it in the voice. But I'll say, but are you ready to work on it? And he said, well, I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I have an issue. I said, okay, well, when you feel you're ready, come back and talk to me. No worries. So, but if the person has a willing desire, because the most famous question I get asked is, will it work for everybody? Well, it will work if you are having two things, an open mind. You don't have to understand the technology or anything, how it works and the quantum physics. I mean, when you take someone in a car, well, can you explain, Deepak, how the carburetor works, how the ignition lights the gas, and how it drives the carburetor? How no one asks you all that. They said, just take me to this place and drop me off. That's
Yeah.
same thing. I'll take you in the location. I'll drop you off at the place you want to go. Maybe a freer life, happier thoughts, maybe more optimistic way of thinking, better life. I'll take you there. So you don't need to know how the technology works, but you have to have an open mind. Like, I'm open to the process. Whatever you share, Deepak, I will follow with you. I will, I'll do what you say. Put your hand on this technology, think about this, do this. It's not hard stuff either. As long as you do that with me, it will work perfect. So
Yeah.
that's all I ask. An open mind. First of all, accept I have something challenging going on in my life, anger, depression, addiction, whatever it is. And I want to move forward to clear it. That's all I ask. And we can go from there. Just be open to the process. So
Yep. You
is
say,
that what you found
get
too?
in the car and go for the ride. And we have there's a, I don't, I'll say this, but I think it seems like 12-step recovery has more like little one-liners, and who knows if but that's where I picked them up. And it works if you work it. That's one of the things.
If you
That's
work
a
it, yeah.
slogan. And so, like, and I always say to people that, because I get the same thing, hey, gal contacts me. Her husband's drinking too much, and she knows he needs some help with his drinking, and she wants me to help him. But if he doesn't want any help, there's absolutely nothing I can do to help him, and that's kind of, when I have some filtering tools and some things, tell him to call me. He's got to reach out and prove to me that he wants it. He has to take those actions. He has to get into the car. And if the patient won't comply with the treatment, there's no treatment in the world that will work. None. If you don't
Well
comply
said.
with it, uh, you know, and I know I have a bunch of wonderful 12-step mentors and people that's impacted me over my life. And I will say the same thing because it thinks that, like, I know one guy who is a lawyer, and he talks about, like, well, penicillin, it works no matter what you think, and so if you have it and you take the pill, but that's kind of the thing in that you have to take the medicine, because the penicillin won't work if you don't. It'll work every single time, but it won't work if you don't take it. And I love those parallels because that is kind of like what these things are. If you don't, you have to be a willing participant, and the more you put into it, the more, just like everything in life, the more you put into it, the more you'll get back out. You just
That's exactly right. The key is to participate in the process. You don't have to understand how it works, like just like the car, right? But it's going to take you from point A to point B. And I will be the one, the chauffeur, taking you there as long as you're with me in the car. And it can be a pretty smooth ride as long as you follow with me. I mean, you might release a lot of different emotions in layers as they're stored, but I'm only releasing what's within you. I'm not creating something, like, so that's the neat thing. And as we like, for example, if someone's really angry and I start in one of the sessions, we release a lot of that anger, then I'll say, how are you feeling after that last session? Wow, I got rid of that anger, but now I'm feeling sad. And I'll say, okay, that's okay. You know why? Why? Because underneath all that anger was sadness. This is from maybe 20, 30 years. So we had to clear this anger before we could get to that sadness underneath that.
Yeah,
Maybe underneath all of that sadness might be guilt or shame. It of course varies from person to person. So then we have to do that. So when they're saying, but why am I feeling this emotion? I'll say, because it was there. You see, I can only release what's there. I can't create something that wasn't there.
yeah,
So if someone ever said to me, well, Deepak, you made me feel angry. I said, I couldn't make you feel anything if I tried. And why would I want you? I'm only here to help you. I'm here to
yeah.
release what's not serving you.
There you go, Buddha.
I didn't know
Some
Buddha said
some
that. Oh.
I think he does. Oh, of course, we don't really know what he said, right? We just some people told us that's what he said, and so and we took it for granted that that's what had happened. But that is one of the things that I've learned as I peeled around into that, to that you need to let go of that which no longer serves you.
That's
Uh,
beautiful.
that this whole thing, and over and over, you kind of sit, and if you want to look at that shame and these kinds of things, and we kind of have we're wrapped it up into a bucket called trauma sometimes. Sometimes that's what's underneath there, and it's kind of there's a lot to that word, well, I'll just go on with what I'm saying. So a lot of times, like you said, them layers, I've got this whole substance abuse thing going on top up here, and until I address it, the other layers, the anger and the sadness and the shame and the things that are there, and it looks like I have a drinking problem, but I really don't. What I got a problem with is a bunch of unresolved stuff that I'm not capable of looking at, unable to, whatever. And I have to get that off of me first. And that's what I've found, because if you're fuzzed up and you're in that state of mind, none of the rest of it really works. You can't, the two things just don't work together, in my experience. So you got to get that off of there. But there's something under there. And then the old peeling of the onion, it seems like no matter what, you're always like, you get this and you have this little bit of elation for a little bit. We call it a pink cloud sometimes, where you're like, oh man, I feel good now. And then you realize, oh, here's this other little bit bubbling down that was underneath there. So now I've got some work to do to go and look at that. And where I'm going with this is that, like, and I think you probably may have something, because I wrestle with this. What if it's trauma that can't be accessed, and how do you deal with that? And my example was, let's say you're a month old and your mom gets caught up in you're taking a nap and she thinks she can go outside and do something real quick. And the neighbor lady starts talking to her. So they're over the fence over there. Meanwhile, you have woke up and you're screaming bloody murder in your bed and nobody's coming, you know?
Yeah.
and and you're in there and it's no fault of hers, it's no fault of yours, there's nothing devious going on, there's no trauma, there's nobody trying to harm somebody, but yet you anchored down on this. Hey, when I need something, when I need it, it doesn't come. And like that could be that kernel that sits there, but like consciously I'm not able to sit here and remember when I'm 1 month old. I can't sit with a
Right.
therapist and go back into my history, and I can talk about being bullied in the third grade, and I can explain the time when the kid threw the milkshake in my face at lunchtime and embarrassed me and, made me feel that way that day at lunch. And I can access these things. But these things like when you're in the womb, generational stuff that you're picking up. My other favorite thing like that, I watch guys, and some people can do it, can be the stay-at-home dad, but I don't see it work very well. And what I say is, I think there's something in the man DNA that has come down from way, way back, that we are trained to go out and kill the dinosaurs and drag it back to the cave. And today I do that by going to some office and then put money in my bank account. But I'm out there killing the dinosaur and bringing it back. And when I lose that piece of purpose in me of going out there, as noble as it is that I'm staying home and financially it's working, my wife is making the money and I'm home taking care of the kid. There's some unmet need in a male psyche. Not always. There's no hardcore blueprint, right? But that I can't, there's something missing, and I need to have that purpose of bringing in the bacon a little bit and have some piece of that. And maybe I can do this stay-at-home dad thing, but I can't just do it solely. I need to also go get this. So that's where I'm like, you see what I'm saying about like this?
Yeah.
So like grandpa, and maybe that's
Yeah.
coming from him, right?
That's right.
He was
That's
a
right.
workaholic, and that's all he did because he grew up in a depression, and that's what you had to do. You had to do that to survive back then. And then like now, that's not, but I might have that in me today where I've got this unhealthy urge to do that, and I don't need to, and it's not serving me because I'm not present for my family, or I'm not having any fun, or various other things.
That's actually a perfect lead in. I had an actual example that I learned from the person who actually originally trained me before I polished optimized the solution that he provided. He worked on a client, and what this guy would do, he would always take money and stuff it under his mattress. And it irritated the dickens out of his wife. She was like, "What is wrong with you? Why do you keep stuffing money under the mattress?" He goes, "I don't know, but it feels good that I do that." And so then what happened is, they found out about the gentleman who originally trained me on this. So he was working on him. And when he tracked it back to his ancestors, because remember, I go back to your parents and grandparents, he found out the grandfather, or that is that guy's grandfather, which would have been, was during the Depression time, it was a very scarcity time. So he, the grandpa, like the grandpa Joe we were talking about, would stuff his money in the mattress. That's what he did. It was natural to him, like because other people would come and take it. And so, for survival for his family, right? The
Yeah.
breadwinner of the family, like you're talking about, it's kind of perfect lead in. So he would do that. So a couple of two generations down, this guy, what his grandfather did, he was doing the same thing. So once this the when I learned this from the practitioner, he cleared that grandpa imprint pattern of scarcity. There's not enough, hide things, people come and take it. It's a dog eat dog world. You got to check behind your back. Once he cleared that grandpa pattern, which was a specific grandpa pattern, that urge for him to stuff money in the mattress just disappeared. In fact, it was almost like he was in a trance. Dan, he started, in the first stages of the clearing, he started going, what am I doing? Then later on, he says, this is weird. Like, why am I even doing this? This is crazy. No, I'm not going to do that. I'll put it in the bank, or I'll put it in a safe deposit box or something else, but not that. So it's almost like he snapped out of a trance. We are actually kind of like in a trance when we're doing these patterns of the past. How many times, a lot of my clients are women too, they'll say, Deepak, I want a man who's compassionate and caring and loving and nurturing, all that kind of stuff. And I've worked on men who want the same thing with women, but they would draw the exact opposite. And they'll say, Deepak, why did I draw someone who's so narcissistic, mean, manipulative, cheats on me, and all that kind of stuff? I'll say, I didn't want that. I'm an honest woman or whatever. I'll say, no, I know you are. It's not that. It has nothing to do with your personality, but it's what you picked up within your DNA from your ancestors, some unresolved emotional issues. Um, because maybe they cheated in the past, grandfather or whatever. So those imprints of what a relationship is came through her, and or even her parents. Maybe they were fighting and had dysfunctional relationship, and it projected forward and drew the same kind of person to her over and over again until I would work with these women, in this case, clear that limiting pattern, and then amazing, just like with me, the bullies kind of turned to wonderful people. She would draw wonderful men in her life. She's like, Deepak, I've never seen men like that. Well, loving, caring, nurturing. I was almost suspecting, is this too good to be true? I said, no, you're doing great. I want to go with these men, she said. I said, no, well, you're doing great. Have fun, date, go out dancing, have a good time, but just hang with me. We're just at train station one. We have a few more stations up ahead. So I keep working with them. And then they say, oh my God, the following week, Deepak, I got many, I didn't think I could get any better than those men. Now it's much nicer, much more compassionate. I said, see, as you release those layers, as we talked about earlier, you get better and better things into your life. And then finally, it kept getting better and better till she finally found her ideal soulmate, which she's with to this day, 10 years later. So I was fortunately in the right, able to help her to get there. But had I not intervened, Dan, she would have repeated the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So you need sometimes someone outside, just like what you do, to intervene in someone's life because they, unbeknownst to them, are repeating the same pattern again and again. And they made a vow, I will never draw someone in my life like my parent or grandparent. I'll never do it. And I'll look at them, they're that person. I go, isn't that Grandpa Joe? Isn't that Grandpa Bob? Isn't that, you're
Yeah.
right, he was like that. Now, this is the interesting thing you might be interested to know. What if the person's grandparents died before the person was born? You see, what I do is I create voice maps when we're doing the initial session. Like I'll map out their whole ancestry to
Mm.
to explain why things happened in their life the way they did. That's how the bullying pattern came in. My parents and grandparents were bullied. My father, remember, he died at such a young age suddenly. You see what happened with him? He internalized the men, right? The breadwinner, like you said, bring home the dinosaur. He said, I don't want to burden my family with this. He had tyrannical, narcissistic, mean, manipulative, cruel bosses. And he was brilliant, but they used him, so to speak, and they made millions off of his talents and gifts, but he got paid nothing. But he tolerated that job. He didn't leave it because he thought he has to be loyal. But he didn't, he also internalized all the emotions of being bullied, which is the same pattern I had. in his life, and then it led to a breaking point. It didn't matter what medication I gave him because he didn't release it because he didn't want it, his pride, he didn't want to burden his family with it. Well, you saw what happened, took him out. So that's why I had such a passion to prevent this from happening to anyone else. But that came from, and his parents, I found, also were bullied too when I tracked it down. That's where I got it from. So there you go. So again, I'll map out the parents through their voice and their relationships they had before and after. And then lastly, their grandparents. Now you might find this interesting. And I take them into an altered state so I can have them talk about these people. So what if they say, well, tell me about your father's father, right? Because they're part of the imprint. Well, they died before I was born, Deepak. I can't redo the recording. I'll say, yes, you can. Because your subconscious knows past, present, and future. You may not, but your subconscious knows everything. It's connected to the outer world. You get what I'm saying here? So it knows past, present, future. So this is what I'll have them do. I'll say, okay, imagine this person. I'll show my hand like that, is your father. You remember what your father was like. Oh, yeah. Now imagine this is your grandfather. I know you didn't know him, your father's father. Imagine he's a shadowy figure. You can't see his face, but imagine he's there. He was definitely there. So put your focus and attention on him. Imagine you can't see his face, but there's a shadowy figure, and that's your father's father. Put your attention on him. And I'd like you to say this to me now over the next 10, 15 seconds. That's how I create a voice map, by the way. I don't know anything about my father's father. I don't know anything about my father's father. They'll keep repeating that. They'll even wonder, like, well, why is Deepak asking me to do this? But they're focusing their attention on the shadowy figure. Their intention is there. But the subconscious knows everything. You see, you may not, but the subconscious. So you won't believe this, Dan. I will get a computerized voice map, which is like an emotional heat map, which might show severe anger. The voice tone is like, I don't know anything about this. There's no anger. It doesn't seem like anger in there. Severe anger. And that grandparent was a very angry, horrible person to his father. He took on the brunt of that. Then we'll go to the other side of the family, maybe the mother's mother. She was severely depressed. I don't know anything about my mother's mother. No one can hear that in the voice. Even that person doesn't know anything about it. But they focused on that person. But that showed severe depression. Isn't that amazing? So in the energy field, all the answers are there. So I'll be able to map out like, oh, that's where you got that sadness and depression from. It came from your grandmother's side. You can even show the percentage of the perception that we had. Because guess what? When we think, I'm making this decision, Deepak, it's my decision. I said, really? Okay, well, analyzing your voice, 80% Grandpa Joe's, 77% your mother's mother, and 79% your father. That's who you think is your decision. It's all of theirs combined into a soup by their limiting perception, that is. And that's why you kept drawing the limiting things into your life over and over again. It wasn't really your decision. But when we release these limiting patterns that I do with these people, then it will be their true decision of what they're doing without the limiting patterns. Does that make sense?
Yep, that goes right along that, getting like taken off of me what is not me. That stuff is not me. That stuff that I drug in through there, and I have to somehow or another, you can't do anything about a problem you don't know about, right? So you have to have something that like says, okay, this is that. And now actually, once I have a problem, so to speak, just to use it generally, then I can actually do something about that problem. Otherwise, I'm just wandering around aimlessly, not knowing. Now, does this it probably doesn't probably, and I'm gonna guess I'm going somewhere with that. You were going back with that second generation, like my dad's dad, but that's
Right.
happened way upstream too, probably for who knows how long, right?
Right.
Is what it is probably maybe, and I'm just guessing that maybe, like it also kind of probably dilutes, and that's probably close enough to still have an impact on me where maybe some of the stuff that's further upstream either came through this channel, so that's what I'm looking at, or it kind of has not really gotten all the way down, like this, it's the stream is run out or is not impacting me any longer in the same way of trying to like go, because then my mind goes, oh, how far back are we going to go?
That's a great question. So I was trained in this science because some people say, well, 200 years ago, I was beheaded or whatever, I'll say, well, the good news is with this work, I don't have to go past the grandparents because I was taught that the meat of whatever's affecting the quality of your life and your decisions, the actions you take, the decisions you make, what you draw into your life, is most impacted up to your grandparents. In other words, the biggest filtration, they may have had other stuff before. I'm not questioning that. Your great grandparents and so on and so forth. But the part that impacts our life, which is all we need to be concerned about with this work, is up to your grandparents. That's the meat of it.
I
Okay.
got you.
So
Yep,
if your
that's good to
father's
know.
father was very mean to your father, a lot of times that was the case, then that affects his own self-esteem, self-worth. Maybe the father's father didn't know what love is and didn't know how to share love or respect to the son. And so the father didn't really know what love is, and then that carries down to the next generation. And that draws the same kind of relationship where there's no love there, that kind of thing. So we don't only need to go back to the grandparents level, is what I found with this work, which is great. We don't have to go past that.
I just thinking, a good friend of mine, one of the things with my spirituality was that, growing up, had Catholic paternal grandparents and Methodist maternal grandparents. And as I became awake and started seeing things as, in those ranges, like you were talking about as a kid, I saw these boxes of religion. I'll just use that term because that's what it was for a guy in the Midwest in the United States. They were different religions. And, and I saw that there were different ones. And, there was a piece of me that said, okay, who's right? It's very important if I'm going to get in one of these boxes with these people, I need to figure out who is the right one. They can't all be right. And then a piece of me said, this is too much work. I'm just going to discount it all and disconnect from all that because I'm afraid of getting into the wrong box and I'll just go my way. It probably don't matter anyway. And then a friend brought to me that we could actually, indeed, they all are right, and you can draw from all this ancient spiritual wisdom. And where I'm going with this is there's a biblical principle of like this thing about the seven generations, you know,
Yes. Yes.
and when I, and this is not a interpretation or anything. I'm tickled to kind of explore it sometimes. What I'm hearing here is no, it probably may not be. You don't have to go that far back to do this. And you also, let's say the damage I might be doing today doesn't necessarily going to travel out into the future for seven generations either. We're not really impacted potentially, at least from the science that you're doing, that
Yeah.
probably not actually the level of impact that's happening to us in this day and age anyway.
Correct, correct, exactly right, right. And even my mentor who I learned this from showed me it was like a Bible, and I'm not a, religious scholar by any stretch, but he cracked open this very ancient Bible that was probably very old, and it said in there, I'm paraphrasing the line, but I think it's pretty much I had it down. Give me a child. It was one of the verses in one of those songs in this Bible. Give me a child by the age of 7, and I will have them for life. I mean,
Mm,
and that's what it said. And I'm like, wait, they knew this back then? Wow. In other words, they knew. Remember, I talked about 0 to 7 from my
yep.
research of hundreds of years of data, but this even goes back, way before that. They knew this. They knew a child can be imprinted in those ages. And yes, up to age 12, but the meat of it is 0 to 7. You see, whatever happens, whatever's done, I've worked with a lot of people who have had mental, emotional, abuse, physical abuse, all that, unfortunately. But especially in those years, it had a huge impact because you don't question it. Even if it's horrible what it was done to the person, you accept it. And you only question it later on in life, but it's already in the program from 0 to 12. You keep projecting 0 to 12 over and over again. Remember that avalanche I talked about in the beginning of our interview? And then you draw a situation that matches like energies draw like energies, that 0 to 12 kind of stuff. Maybe dysfunctional relationships, maybe abusive relationships, I don't know. And then now you have that built up with the original pattern. Now you have a bigger snowball, and that's going to draw a bigger situation till finally some huge thing will happen later on. That's why this work is so, I feel, just like your work, essential to dissipate all that huge snowball into where it came from and then dissipate the snowball to begin with. So you
Yeah.
create a whole new reality forward, you see.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember I had a friend, one of these guys, and I would talk about like, the ball cap maybe has a carrot hanging out here off the front of it, like and and that carrot for me was the past, and no matter which way I looked, that was sitting there, and I couldn't move past it no matter what I did. The past was sitting there, and no matter what direction I tried to turn, there it was again. And this process, I would say that it allowed me to turn my hat around backwards, put the past where it belongs. And my buddy said, "Won't you just take off the hat?" And
Oh, that's brilliant.
yeah, but it all works, right? Now,
Yeah, yeah, it all works.
my brain works with these analogies real well, and plus sometimes, in the world I'm working with, man, a guy's mind is not operating quite at the level that it can be when I meet him. So some of this almost dumbing stuff down, sort of,
Yeah,
uh, works real well to communicate what I'm trying to get imprinted on them. In those young years, you're like that hard drive is empty and it's almost like full of static electricity. So everything just jumps on it, man. It doesn't make any difference. As you get older, when your hard drive's a little more clogged up, you seem to almost, it works in a way where you can be a little bit more discerning about what gets stuck on your hard drive or not. I get some choice there, but when you're a little kid, man, it doesn't matter. It all just piles in there and clogs it up almost like a clogged artery. Uh,
yeah.
and the flow of the
That's a very
universe
good analogy,
once
actually.
my experience and my ways, the flow of the universe coming through that artery wants to give you all the blessings that this human life can have, that you're have some feelings of success, of purpose in your life, of love and connection. But that clogged artery, man, it just won't allow that energy to flow through there until you go back there and do some work to get those things knocked loose and resolved.
Exactly. And the thing is, the longer you delay it, the more it'll build up. You see,
Yeah.
I worked on a lady who was 90, and she had, in her case, 65 years of therapy. Not how old she
Mhm.
was for her depression. So she somehow found out about me because it didn't work for her. She still had severe depression after 65 years of therapy. So I told her, yeah.
That's
And
beating a dead horse.
yeah, yeah, and I'm not commenting, but I mean, it was talk therapy, but clearly didn't work for her, right? So, I told her this is completely has nothing to do with any of that. It's a totally new song. It's a totally different technology. It's like I'm basically taking you in a jet from point eight from California to New York. You can take the horse and buggy if you like. I think you did that, but I think this kind of a bumpy ride too. But this is going to be I'll take you in luxury over there. So anyway, but just bear with me. So we went through this process. She didn't understand a word of like what I'm explaining to your listeners on how the technology works. But I said, ma'am, don't worry about it. You don't have to know how that works. You don't have to know how the car engine works, taking you from point A to point B. Hold my hand, walk with me, listen to what I'm saying. You're gonna get to the same place. And she did. In a, I was only doing one session a week, and in a handful of months, doing one session a week, I was able to clear the depression she didn't clear in 65 years.
Mm.
And here's a little story about it. In the retirement complex that she was in, okay, everyone hated her. She was public enemy number one. She was and the people even helping her, the guys, carrying groceries to her apartment, retirement home apartment, they were like begrudgingly doing it. Like, okay, where do you want me to take this to? Do I gotta do it? Do I have to take it like that? So she wasn't that happy with that. Well, when I started working on her, it's interesting how the universe changes things. Maybe you can relate to this. She goes back one of our sessions, earlier sessions in this, she goes back to her apartment complex. There's wine bottles, bread and cheese at her door. Like, what the heck? Somebody's leaving me gifts. Apparently, new people visiting the retirement home thought she was the main communicator to connect them with everyone in the retirement home. So they'd meet everyone. She's public enemy number one, remember? Like, what? Now, it's interesting how this, nothing was changed. Like, we just changed the reality in her subconscious. And then that same guy who would take stuff to her place, like, oh, I gotta take this stuff. Like, oh man, I have other things to do.
Mrs. Smith again.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, she drives home right from our session. She goes to him. She was like, he comes up to her car, ma'am, uh, can I help you take your stuff to your apartment? She was like, can't be the same guy. Looks like him, talks like him, personality like him. Can't be him. Oh, where would you like me to put it? Can I put things away for you in the shelf? Is there anything else I can arrange in your shelves for you? I know I didn't help you before, but I'd be happy to help you. Is there anything else I can do for you before I leave here? No, no, everything's good. Okay. Anything you need, please call me anytime. Okay, I'm here for you. She's like, what the heck? Did somebody put a spell on it? Like, what's going on here? Then all these people started like crazy inviting her to all their family reunions, and she's not even a family member. She sat at their head table at all the family reunions. She's not a family member. So she got all this attention. So she comes back for a follow-up session, Dan, and she says to me, Deepak, I'm getting all these friends I never had. People are talking to me. I'm now having all these social events, but I have a problem. I go, ma'am, you had no one like you. You hated everyone. Everyone hated you. What is your problem with all the work we did? Well, Deepak, I've been invited to too many parties. I have too many friends. I have to say no to half of them. There's no physical way I can go to all of them. How do I say no? I said, ma'am, no one ever said yes to you. You never said yes to anyone. I can help you with saying no, no problem. So that
Yeah.
was a good problem. So
Yeah.
it's amazing how your reality can change, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
And even, you talked about earlier about like how these certain people floated out of your life and then these new ones floated in. And I get that. I've experienced the same thing. But then, like when you talk about this gal, some people seem to have changed, and it seems to be because of my energy about life has changed and that ripple effect that comes out. And it's very interesting that I've seen the exact similar kind of thing where somebody who was kind of a problem for me, I just couldn't really like them. There was something in me that wanted to, I'm not a person that wants to dislike people, but this person's energy and this and that, and it was always, everything was always doom and gloom, and it just was no
mm,
fun to be
hmm
around. And like,
hmm
and as I changed, it's like it almost, and I don't know what this is because I don't want to make it sound like I'm not taking credit for this at any level, but I noticed that like these people also changed when I changed. And it definitely happens in like family systems and stuff. As I work on me, I
yeah,
see and I watch this happen. My kids changed as a result of me doing work on me, not trying to fix them. I wasn't doing anything to try to fix them. I was just working on me, and that had that impact on these people in almost a magic way, uh, that where they
absolutely.
got better too.
No, and well, I'll say this, Dan. Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world, right?
Right.
You're doing that. And yes, it's true because as I'm changing each person one at a time, as you are, I'm not only changing that person, but I'm changing all the people they draw into their life and who they interact with.
Right. Yep.
See, that's part of my mission, as was with you. So I will say something to that. No, you are. You are creating that change. I'm going to say that. I'm going to declare that. You are the one creating that change. You're changing in yourself, but you're changing your reality outside of you, just like I did with that woman.
Yeah.
And so her reality changed in her life, in her experience. So yes, you are doing the same. You are doing that.
And I like a little thing about like, I can't change the entire world. I'm incapable of doing that. But when a man comes through my path that I can help, when I can help that guy, I'll focus on helping him. And then I see that ripple go out, and then some other man and another man. And then yeah, the world is changing as a result of the work I've done on myself. And that ripples out. The Grateful Dead's got a song about it, and so does a whole bunch of other people about that effect that we have. And that's kind of the meat potatoes of what I think we're sitting here talking about is that, hey, we can be stuck in these spots, and it feels stuck. It does. That's one of the funny things about this is you feel alone. You feel like you are stuck in that, uh, you'll never be able to get out of it and this and that. And I'm here and you're here to testify that you can. And then the fruits of that actually are that you get to have this impact that waves through, your whole atmosphere, your environment where, you can be a positive influence, almost by accident, uh,
Absolutely.
in the work of,
Dan, we don't realize the power we have, and often we discount it. And often society has a big part of it. Oh, you're just a cog in the wheel of the society. But that's not true. That was maybe, I don't know, done to disempower us. I'm not sure. By, well, what I'm trying to say is, I'll say it another way. We have the power to create immense change. We think like, who am I, Deepak? I'm nothing. It's like, and I'll work with this client. I'll say, no, you are something. You just didn't realize your own power. if I'm helping you make a shift within yourself that you're not consciously aware of, the things that are holding you back, the limiting patterns of thought that I'm picking up that you're not even aware of, if I help release that, I'm going to release your full potential. But that's your potential. I'm simply releasing the limiting potential of yourself. I'm releasing your authentic self of who you are and who you truly are and who you should be and what you can accomplish. Instead of just accomplishing a limited amount in life and saying, oh, that's good enough. I want to release your full potential. And that's all I'm doing. That's you. When I release your full potential shelf, it's like you can go to places you've never been before and draw situations and wonderful things in your life that you never had before, experience relationships and wonderful experiences you never had before. You can have all that. But all I'm doing is releasing what's holding you back so your full potential can come out. Each of us has that. Each of us has the potential to create dynamic shifts in us and everyone else. So that's what I'm saying. We're creating change one person at a time, but it's not just one person that you and I are doing. We're creating changes on a magnet. That's my passion in my life. That's my mission too. As I create a change in each person, it's creating a change in that person's life and all the people they're interacting with and all the people those other people are interacting with and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes me think of that Marianne Williamson quote that, and I was sitting here, I was not texting, I was looking for it. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure, is our light, our
Fantastically
God.
said.
I
Beautifully
love
said.
that, man. I keep it handy, and I love it. Makes gives me the chills on it because that's the truth. We are, and and then she goes on to say, if you remember, you probably have heard it, but as uh, and as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people
Ooh,
permission to do the same. We are liberated from our own fear, and our presence automatically liberates others. Uh, I love that
perfect.
little paragraph out of that book. That's another thing. I'm a collector of quotes. Those things touch me, man, and
Those
uh,
are beautiful
I
quotes.
collect them. But that one there, because we are, we have power that we don't understand, and we can feel so, like she said, inadequate and weak and powerless. And that's a little bit of an issue I have with a 12-step community is the whole powerlessness thing. I get it and I understand it. And I also know that things, life is just full of the double-edged sword. The coin has two sides, the pendulum swing, all those analogies, that the powerlessness does work in the realm that it was, but it also kind of imprints that like I'm powerless over everything, right? And there's some
Exactly.
substance to that in a way because I can't just, that allows me like to take myself off the hook to thinking I have to fix everything. But I am not powerless. I actually have a great deal of power in my life today and can use it in a positive way because that's another thing that this word power is getting tossed around a lot in some ways where it's in a negative context, these powerful politicians and all that. And but with this is something different than that.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like, if we say, oh, they're too powerful, are we in a way saying to ourselves that we shouldn't be too powerful? And if we're saying that, then we're limiting ourselves, aren't we? So and I don't know if society sometimes grooms that, power is corrupts absolutely. Well, but if you don't have power, you won't get anywhere either. So
Yeah.
the thing is, if you're not empowered yourself, how can you get to those levels you want to be? So it's almost like we say, oh, I don't want to be like those powerful people. Well, then you'll be like the masses then, and you won't rise above it.
Yeah.
So, if the people above want that, well, maybe that's okay. We'll stay at the same level, but maybe it's time for us to say, wait, no, we deserve to be powerful too. There's nothing wrong with that word. Maybe because you're only going to amplify it. If someone is negative, doing things negative with power, they're amplifying that negative side. But the power itself is not bad, is it, Dan?
Well, right. Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Makes a lot of sense. Yes. I like knocking this stuff around. It creates those, those synapses and I can feel it sparking around and it always helps me grow and process like these new things. I haven't covered this like that your voice actually communicates that. And I had a guest on a while back that was doing biofeedback, and I'm certainly a long way from understanding, but here's where I'm going with that is that I've had a bunch of people on lately that's been vocal people, singers, vocal coach, vocal. find your voice, find your true voice, speak
Yeah,
your
yeah,
truth.
yeah.
And I've also had some people talking biofeedback and this kind of thing, and they're like putting monitors on people and putting that in the computer and are able to like gauge people's reactions, that subconscious stuff that they're not. And now I'm like putting both things together here with you're bringing it with actual the voice is actually maybe kind of the transducer or something that's puts out can be measured, that's coming out as a biofeedback thing. And it's interesting to me to watch these things get woven together. And anytime I get these messages from different angles, you know, it's this
Yes,
synchronicity thing. I
yes.
know today that there's a message here for Dan, or else this message wouldn't be coming from these different people from that are unconnected. I'm getting some kind of message about voice and this and biofeedback in general. I'll do some exploration in that and ask the universe to help me get what I'm supposed to be getting out of this because I can feel something.
Yeah, and in fact, I wanted, if I could just lead in from what you just said, it's a perfect lead into which will support everything you're saying. My aspect of voice, the voice is one of the most powerful aspects of us. Because think of it, I've worked with a lot of top actors, authors, singers, speakers, regular folk from age 0 to 90. Okay, I mean, sorry, 18 to 90, I should say. Um, and And the main thing is the voice that I listen for. Your voice is a reflection of every part of your being. You see, when I used to hear like when you're speaking with your voice, I thought, oh, you're just speaking with your vocal cord. That's not true, Dan. What I found, when you speak about anything, you or anyone, we're speaking with every single cell and aspect of our being, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, every part of our being. Every cell in our body, we're speaking with that, not just our vocal cord. So whatever feelings, thoughts, or emotions we have in every single cell since the day we were born, we're speaking with that. And it's a carrier wave of our emotions. So here's an example. Let's say a guy is giving a presentation to an audience about how to have a great relationship. He's got his whole PowerPoint, everything laid out, right? And he's got his system down. But what about 10 minutes before the presentation? His girlfriend says, you know what? I don't want to be with you anymore. It's over. 10 minutes before he presented. I actually have case studies. So so now he's like, what? I was wrong. I can't believe she led me on all this time and now she just dumps me abruptly. Well, the show must go on. So he gives this presentation, puts on a smile. Hey, I'm going to talk about how you can have a great relationship. Well, guess what happens? He's inside really upset, really angry about being betrayed, or maybe she cheated on him, or she just decided to break up, whatever. Now, when he's giving the presentation, even with a smile, this is how you have a great relationship. This is what you do. Da, da, da. The audience is not picking up that vibe, Dan. You know why? Imagine your voice a carrier wave, which it is. You're emailing your unresolved emotions. You're right to your audience members, right to their subconscious, even
Mm,
beyond their awareness. They're not even aware. They're
yeah.
getting the message, but they're getting the message with that unresolved emotions. Oh, I was betrayed. What the heck is wrong with her? I can't believe she did this to me after all these years. Yeah, they're feeling that. That's going right in. You see all these different emotions. They're not just hidden away somewhere. They're in every aspect of what we say. So we're literally emailing or right to the subconscious of our audience, you see. So that's another key point, right? Because you think, oh, I'll just give my presentation. No one's going to notice a thing. Well,
So let's go on.
the show must go on, but they will pick it up. But
Yeah.
there's another thing, right, why I use the voice. If I may explain this, imagine we have 60 trillion cells in our body, right? In general, I know people say more or less, but imagine there's a 12 key keyboard in each of those cells to make it easier for your audience to see the concept of what I'm saying. You know, like a piano, right? There's 12 keys. I listen for those keys, you see. But the science of this work is that different emotions squash different keys of that internal keyboard in every cell. For example, anger squashes specific notes on your keyboard. When it squashes those notes, I don't hear them. Grief
Mm.
squashes different notes on your internal keyboard. Fear, low self-esteem, low trauma, different keys are squashed. If you have a couple of those, a lot of those notes might be squashed. So guess what happens? If those notes are squashed on your keyboard, you're not fully heard.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're saying. It doesn't matter how good the message is. You're not heard. So if you, let's like that guy gave example of. So I worked on a woman, for example, who went through so much mental, emotional, physical abuse when she was a kid. But she somehow triumphed above that, Dan, and was somehow able to establish a business success. So she wanted to inspire women on the challenge she went through, that you can do this too. This is a great message. She made these videos, DVDs about the whole thing. But for many years, she would give presentations to these groups of women. And while she was telling me I went through this emotional, physical abuse, she thought it would bring tears to their eyes so they could connect maybe what they went through. But the women were gossiping with each other during the presentation. And when she was like, okay. Then when she got to the climax, like, and this is how I triumphed above it, hoping a thunderous applause would happen. Deadpan, nothing. So
Hmm.
she did this many years. She's like, so she came to me through this work I do remotely. She said, Deepak, I did it perfect. Can you look at my PowerPoint? The audience didn't respond at all. It was like deadpan. What the heck happened? I looked at her PowerPoint. I said, well, I'm not a PowerPoint master. I work with voice, but your PowerPoint is perfect. So what's the issue, Deepak? She says. I said, well, it's not your presentation. It's you. What do you mean? It's your voice. When you're sharing with me about what happened, I can barely hear most of the notes in your voice.
Hmm.
Grief, anger, guilt, shame, regret. You did go through those challenges in your childhood, I know, but you never actually cleared those emotions, though you triumphed above it. You power through it. Let's actually clear it at the source code. Let's actually clear it from your whole childhood and your whole life. So I cleared it. And then I said, okay, I hear your voice perfect because I'll hear perfect harmony in their voice. By the way, you'll get a voice like you've never had when you do this process with me. A lot of top singers, actors, and authors who you know, which I can't explain, have done this. And they have their coaches, by the way, who couldn't get this result with them, this unique process. So I told her, okay, I have a homework assignment for you. What? I want you to give that same exact verbatim presentation, word for word, to the same kind of basically group of women. What? Deepak, that was the most humiliating experience I ever had. Do you want me to do that again? I said, yes. You are not the same woman. You are not, I'm hearing you completely different.
Hmm.
So I said, okay, and then report back to me what you found. Okay, whatever you say. She goes the first night to do this exact verbatim presentation. And as she's starting about the mental, emotional, physical abuse that she went through as a kid, this time the women are getting tears in their eyes, deadpan silence. They're listening, they're not talking to each other. When she gets to the climax of how she triumphed and then created a business in spite of being told she'll amount to nothing and all of that stuff, the women stood on their feet and thunderously applauded. First time in her life. So she said, Deepak, you won't believe it. I got a standing ovation. I never had that in my whole life. What was the difference? I said, the difference was not the information, it was you. You
Hmm.
are now not only heard, because when you're heard, you're seen also. That's why that happened. So now all the notes are heard. Does that bring a better distinction to how your
Yeah.
voice is a
Okay. Yeah.
powerful?
Yeah. Like there's some broken strings in the back of the piano almost, or they're dampened, and you just don't get the full range of what's available when those things are turned off like that, or dampened.
Exactly.
That's interesting. I'm thinking as you were talking about that, one of the things, how much energy it actually takes to be vocal, right? Uh,
Yeah.
because like when you're speaking and I'm listening, I can be having quite a bit going on over here. But when I'm talking, then like pretty much everything shuts down except for what my talking. I can't really talk about something and think about something else. Uh, uh,
Yeah.
that it does seems that it like one of the things when I meditate, I have like two specific channels in my brain that I need to like address to be because I can listen to a guided meditation and still think about something else. Or I can breathe and think about, but if I'll do something like if I listen to the meditation and focus on my breathing, that like clogs up the two channels. And then I can not allow anything else, how I mean stuff comes and goes. But that's the way I look at it. But like when I'm talking, it seems like I'm down to one channel. It's me talking. Everything else is turned off. So I could see how almost like a focal point of everything of my being is now being presented right here with the notes that are coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very
Absolutely.
being, all of it.
And right. And when those other notes, guilt, shame, regret, trauma, whatever, when those emotional patterns are released, you'll have a voice like you've never heard. I mean, aren't we all kind of secret closet singers
Sure.
ultimately? I mean,
Yeah.
right? And why not? How do we communicate with the world, Dan? Through our voice. So, I mean, it is an important thing. So people say,
Mhm.
well, my voice doesn't matter. So no, it does. It's everything. That's how you communicate with people. But if you have these different limiting emotions, and this is the science of this work, your voice is not fully heard. And guess what? If you're not heard, you're not seen. If you're not seen, you're not acknowledged, appreciated, valued, understood. The most common thing I hear when people come and see me, Deepak, I'm not seen, valued, understood, appreciated, valued. That's the most common thing. And that's why,
Yeah.
until I learned the science, I didn't understand that. But once you release that, you'll have a voice like you never had. And yes, you'll have a singer's voice too.
Yeah. And we do, we really make judgments really quickly. That's one of the things that I was thinking about the vocal coach that I had on, and that your voice communicates something just out of a very first couple of notes that will cause that first impression thing with somebody else to decide, are they going to listen to you or are they not? And it could be none of your fault. Maybe, she would do some impersonations, and she would do like a real nasally, like Gilda Radner kind of voice, and you could tell she in her demonstration that, and I could feel it that would turn me off. I would just be like, that's something I'm not listening to. I'm not receiving that. So again, the same thing, exactly what you're saying, as you do this, then your voice will be more clear and your message can actually be communicated in the way the universe designed you to do it.
Yeah,
Cool.
you'll be
Cool.
seen and heard like you never were before. Absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Got anything else you want to talk about? Anything particular? We've gone about an hour and a half, and I'm
This,
open for some more, but I also want to make sure we pack stuff in. And also, I always like to want people to turn off the podcast wanting more than turn it off saying that's enough.
absolutely. Well, I was just going to put this out there for everyone listening and viewing. I know a lot of you have gone through a lot of challenges in your life and maybe traumas and all kinds of emotional upsets. We've all had. But even if it feels hopeless for all of y'all listening, like, God, there's no hope. There's no way out of this. I guess my life is like this. There's no way out. I'm guess I'm destined to have this. No, there is. I proved it in my own life. I drew these horrible people, and I thought I better have some friends that are horrible and mean and cruel than no friends at all. Well, what I found is no, you can have the ideal people in your life, even if you've never experienced it in your life. Even if you've never experienced a loving relationship, also, this goes for relationships too, or friendships, or whatever it is. You can have all those things you wanted, but it's our own limiting beliefs within ourselves and limiting thoughts, negative emotions that are holding us back, that are squashing the keys in our voice, notes in our voice from being heard. And then that's why we're not heard and acknowledged, or we're drawing the same similar patterns in our life over and over again, expecting a different result. So the message for all of you all listening is no matter what you've gone through all the way to this point, you can have that life that you always desired, that you never thought you could have. You can have it. And guess what? You all deserve to have it. And if you're open to it, I can help take you there.
Very cool. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. This stuff is cool. I always have I always feel like I have homework to do. It's not really homework in a bad thing. It's like more of a curiosity and want to delve into it a little more. Um, Website, is it
Absolutely.
fastanxietyhelp.com?
That's right. Yeah. So for anyone listening, I offer a complimentary 15-minute consult with me, no obligations, where you can share with me all the things, challenges going on in your life. And I will share with you, because I customized my program for each person uniquely, my strategy and plan for you of how to take you from the challenges you are now to the freedom place you'd like to be ultimately for whatever you actually want in your life. It's no obligations. So you go to my website, as Dan said, fastanxietyhelp.com, FASTANXITY help, HELP.com. Go to that website, sign up, go to my appointment scheduler and sign up for a complimentary 15-minute consult with me, no obligations, and we can have a talk and talk about what's going on in your life, and I can tell you how you can get to where you want to be. I recommend you also check out the testimonials on my website. There's many there. So you might be able to connect with some of those people. Oh, yeah, I can relate to that person. I can relate because it might inspire you as well. So that's what I recommend.
All right. Yeah, that sounds great. That testimony, other people's testimony is a huge piece of how 12-step recovery works. Uh, I tell my story. I let you see that I've been where you're at and I made it out the other side, and gives you hope that you can too. So those testimonies are definitely powerful. If there's some magic in that of, hey, they did it, I can maybe do it too. Some of the worst ones, like some of these guys tell their stories and they go, if I could make it out, you can too. And that's true. That's true across the board. So awesome. I'll have those links in the show notes as well. As I always tell people, I do pretty well just in time delivery. So it won't be long before this will be out. I'll send you the links and we'll see. Thank you for shining your light and being a force for good. And this thing, I haven't said this in a minute, but if you watch if you keep your attention on certain corners in this world and certain places, it looks like a mighty dark place. And that's subjective at some level. But I choose to keep my eyes in the people who are carrying light like you are. And I'm still convinced that the light will always overcome that darkness. And we just need more warriors out here carrying lanterns and shining light and bringing tools to people, because ultimately I think that's a big piece of what's missing is people just don't have tools. They don't have the mechanisms and tools in order to get where they need to be, and they're available. You just got to keep your heart and eyes open for what set of tools are best for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, it's great meeting you. I've had a really good time chatting here. It always elevates my frequency when we're doing things like this. So thank you for being on the show, and I will be in touch shortly.
Thank you
Uh,
for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Ryan, where are you at right now? Where the location?
Sarasota, Florida.
Sarasota, Florida. That's what you said, Florida. Yeah, I'm near Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know why, but that spacious thing in my head likes to know, like, where am I and where are you?
Well, but as you mentioned about the Midwest, I was born and brought up in the Midwest, with 12 feet of snow and blistering cold. And that's when I decided originally to move out west to California, where we formed the Chari Center of Health. And then in the past 3 years, I moved to Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah, yeah. I'm about right in the middle. We just had a big snowstorm and we get that, but it's not like chronic. It ain't feet of snow ever and that kind of stuff. And here, right where this little strip is about middle America, north and south, and we get, well, like as I get a pretty good dose of all four seasons. And I like that. We get a good winter, a good spring, a good fall, and a good summer of fairly equal proportion and intensity.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great to see all 4 seasons like that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, have a great rest of your Monday. I'm heading off to learn something. I've signed up for a forest management course. I happen to be fortunate enough to own a little bit of property here in southern Indiana that's forested, and I took it upon myself to go take our Department of Forestry put on a program to go learn how to manage it, and that's been really cool and enlightening too, so in a different way. So that's where I'm heading this evening.
Oh, good, good, good.
All right. Have a great rest of your Monday night. It's so nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you too, Dan.
All right.